Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining our live stream today. We are going to discuss a sea of energy efficiency opportunities. So a focus on Southeast Asia. So it's a new and really, really interesting topic for us. And very, very happy to present this to you guys. And hopefully it's going to stimulate an interesting discussion. It's going to be 30 minutes, and let's get going. So just a couple of housekeeping points before I introduce our guest. We are obviously recording this, right? So if you're watching live, no problem. You'll be able to come back to the recording, and you'll be able to find that on YouTube and also LinkedIn. If on YouTube later on, if you want to search for it, if you search for Smart Building Series, then you'll be able to find it. And of course, like if you want to be updated with all the things that we do, you can subscribe on LinkedIn, or you can sign up to our page on YouTube as well. This is free content that we're providing. So if you like what we do, then please share it and tell your contacts about it, because that really helps us and encourages us to do more. So that would be great. So let me introduce our guest today. This is William Temple. He's the CEO of Ampotech, and he's joining us from Singapore today. Hi, William.
Hi, thanks. It's great to be here, James.
Really good to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Ampotech to start off with.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ampotech. We're an energy technology business that's headquartered in Singapore, and we focus on Southeast Asian markets. So we have a presence in 6 markets in the region, and we do energy efficiency for commercial and industrial clients. We also work with distributed energy resources and managing those resources. So I think it's really an interesting time to be focusing on this market, and happy to be here in this chat with you.
Great, absolutely, totally agree. And the reason for that, as we know, is because we've collaborated on some research, and we'll tell you about that on the next slide. But let's just frame what we're going to discuss today. And essentially, we're focusing on that piece of research that we did together, and so we're gonna look at the overview of what the energy opportunity across the region looks like. We're then going to do a brief comparison of some of the different country markets, and then we're going to focus on 3 of them. And this was the main focus of our work. That was Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam. Then we're going to talk about William's perception, and also from our research about success factors for market entry. William and the guys at Ampotech have got a lot of experience in these markets, and I think it's fair to say, they're very nuanced, and it's not one of the things that you can just jump in and expect it to, those success factors to be the same in Western markets. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Ampotech's approach. And finally, then just a few key takeaways. So in terms of interaction, very happy to have you guys listening in. I can see comments as they come in on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you do want to add something to the conversation, feel free to put something in the comments. Questions and things we'll probably take later, but if it's something that is relevant to what we're talking about at that point, then we'll take it straight away. So yeah, feel free to contribute. So as I said, we collaborated with Ampotech on this specific piece of research. It was months of work. We did a lot of interviewing of different stakeholders in the market. I had a colleague who traveled to the region to help do this research. And, I think it's well worth a read, and it's also free. So there you go. Download it at Ambertech website. I've put the link in the chat, which you'll see on both LinkedIn and YouTube, but also you can scan that QR code. So yeah, go ahead if you want to do that. I'll also show this later on as well. So if you don't worry if you miss the QR code. So let's get started with the sort of look at the specifics of the research. So let's start off. We can frame the energy opportunity for the whole region. What we could see quite clearly was that Southeast Asia is really driving global energy demand growth. As you can see there, energy demand is up 35% from the last decade, and electricity up 60%. But the market remains fragmented, and outside of Singapore, which is a real hub for the region, actually, it's a low maturity in terms of energy efficiency services and software and hardware. And a lot of what we can see is the sort of the dominant mindset is around capex based projects, and a clear expectation of payback around 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I think, William, from your perspective, I mean, you guys have been operating now for over 10 years. How have you seen, you talked to clients over that time, what have you seen change? What are clients tell you? And if we bring that up to date, what are they, in the last 2 or 3 years, what do you think has changed?
Yeah, I would say that the region has matured quite a bit in the last 3 years or so. I recall, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of the conversations were around pilots, proof of concept projects, just trying to understand IoT and energy efficiency and smart building solutions. And I think we've sort of made that transition from early adopters to early majority, at least in some of the markets that are a bit further along in the region, where now you are seeing RFPs and tenders that include these types of solutions. You're seeing more meaningful implementation. And I think it's really an exciting time to be in Southeast Asia because we do see a lot of fundamental economic growth, but we also see more openness and more readiness for these kinds of solutions if you can serve with the right business model and the right partners to basically build trust and build credibility in each market.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, and do you feel like the client's perception has also changed? I mean, we'll get into some of the real kind of detail, for example, regulation and all that kind of thing. But again, when these conversations you have with clients, do you feel like there has been a change in perception?
I do think that there is more understanding and more willingness to pursue these kinds of projects. So in that sense, I think some of the education work that was put in over the past few years is starting to pay dividends, where people kind of understand what you have to offer. And it's really more about the numbers and the ROI and whether a specific project makes sense in that customer's context. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there's been a mindset shift. I mean, if I look back to the early years of our company, 2015, 2016, there was very little awareness, and you're really having to fight an uphill battle to educate people and explain why you would even consider these kind of solutions. And it's a whole different story now.
Interesting. Okay, so let's just look quickly at regional comparison. We made reference to Singapore, which is where you guys are headquartered. And then we made some comparison on a very, very kind of high level to Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. And I think you can see quite a clear pattern there about how these different markets are not structured, but basically how you might tier them. I mean, Singapore is definitely an outlier in the region for obvious reasons, higher GDP per capita. But of course, the total addressable market, the market opportunity, is less there. It's more saturated. And that's kind of I think why we focused on Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam in this piece of research, because we think that is where there is high potential for in terms of the addressable market for these kind of services. So, William, interested in your sort of opinion on this. Given these, what we can see in terms of maturity, I mean, how has that influenced how you've prioritized your business and where you focus your resources?
Yeah, excellent question. So from our point of view, we focus on Southeast Asian markets. We believe in the medium to long-term growth potential of these markets, and we're really here to establish ourselves early in these markets and grow with the GDP and the customers that are rapidly adopting these solutions in each market. So from that point of view, we have sort of a strategic imperative to be present in these markets and start building relationships and building traction. Um, Out of the markets that you see here, we're in all of them except for Thailand at the moment. And our strategy is really to start small with only one or two sales staff in each market to basically find an entry point. Um, so for us as a business, we offer sort of a horizontal platform solution rather than a narrow vertical solution. So we can cover metering and utilities management for billing tenants for energy and water. We can provide energy efficiency and automation. We can provide solar asset management and DER management. So in that sense, what we can do in each market is start with a small presence and sort of feel out which use case or which application is the most ready in that particular market. And then once we start seeing growth, we choose where we want to double down and grow our team and put more resources. So that's the way we've been approaching it right now, which seems to be paying off, at least in the last 1-2 years.
Mm. No, I think that's smart because I mean, as our research kind of found, yeah, we can talk about this. We can talk about it on a regional level, but obviously, when you dig into it, actually, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, whatever, they're quite different in terms of, not just from the market structure, but also obviously the regulation, and there's lots of nuances. So being there,
Yeah,
understanding the market, is super important, isn't
I,
it?
I think I think presence is really key because what we've seen is in each market, customers tend to be really wary of companies that are just sort of flying in and out, and they don't really have a grounded sort of permanent presence on the
Mm.
ground. I think they feel like they want local support. They want to know who else you've worked with in the market. And so we felt that we really had to make the commitment and establish an office and put people in each market so that we can localize effectively and build those relationships.
Hmm. Good. Right. Well, let's get into some of the specific markets. So we can start with Indonesia, and here are the things that I think some of the things that jumped out from our research. Uh, Data centers is a massive opportunity, not just in Indonesia. We can look at some of the other markets as well, but we're talking about 900 megawatts by the end of this year. Also, I think what stood out to me is sort of adoption of intelligent systems as well is really growing there, and also this when we talk to some specific people in the market, like this that what I thought was quite surprising, this food and beverage manufacturing was very open to energy management, and they in our opinion were at the higher level of kind of adoption. So, William, I don't know if you can share some examples from Indonesia. I mean, what have you seen around data center growth or manufacturing adoption? What are some of your experiences?
Yeah, so right now we're seeing opportunities with existing data centers in Indonesia, looking for ways to improve energy efficiency, whether it's with cooling, whether it's with lighting, or even something like liquid cooling, right? More of an emerging technology for data centers. We are working on proposals for manufacturers now, looking for optimizing chiller systems or HVAC in general, not just chilled water. We're seeing opportunities in different manufacturing sectors, looking for either metering for energy and water for industrial parks, or a more holistic EMS. So I think one of the key things for Indonesia, which is true in most of the markets really, is that you need to have a sort of modular system, and you need to have the ability to serve customers at different maturity levels. So that's what we try to do with our platform and our solution. And so far, that seems to be a promising direction in these markets.
Yeah, because there's, I think often a perception like you can sort of talk about markets so generically, but even within, of course, within Indonesia and these other markets, there's such different levels of sophistication.
So, yeah, I would say the customer really matters a lot more than the market. In a sense, it's about understanding the specific customer. Are they a multinational? Are they a large local enterprise? Are they a small business? And then that will dictate how you have to approach them.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point. So the Philippines, again, pulled out some of the highlights from our research. Highest electrical prices in the region, which for energy management, energy efficiency, obviously can lead to a strong ROI. Again, new data center capacity coming on, and we can talk about ISO 5001. Manufacturing, again, driven in some part by ESG, and I think also what we saw was this retail and logistics. So I think multi-site retail was really interesting in the Philippines. We could see some examples of where those type of customers had really embraced energy management across their portfolio. Yeah, so I mean, what stood out to you when you guys entered the Philippines market last year?
I think one of the things that we were pleasantly surprised by in the Philippines was I would say the readiness and the level of understanding about the kinds of solutions that we provide. So I suppose this is really driven by the high electricity prices, as you mentioned, where there is a stronger pain point in that sense. But we felt like conversations have been progressing more quickly than in other markets at times, where you don't have to cover a lot of the basics about why would you want this kind of technology or this kind of system. It's really more about what's your price point, how quickly can you do this, do you have implementation support. So I think the Philippines is looking very promising for us, and there's a lot of activity not just in energy efficiency but in renewable energy obviously as well, which is one of the use cases that we serve. So yeah, I think the Philippines is certainly a strong market in the region at the moment.
Right, and you've also become a member of PE2 as well, which is a kind of group of organizations. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that's the Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance, which is a group of companies in the energy services business and energy efficiency business. So compared to many of the markets in Southeast Asia, the Philippines has a relatively more mature ESCO community. So companies looking to finance and implement energy efficiency projects. I would say overall, it's still in the relatively early stages of growth in that sector, but a lot of the right building blocks are there to grow that business in the Philippines.
Yes. Okay. Now let's take a look at Vietnam. So again, this sort of foreign ownership ban lifted on data centers. So I think that's going to be an interesting driver. Things like this smart meter rollout in some of the cities, and again we saw a focus on cold chain logistics. So that market growing quite rapidly, or at least people think it's going to grow quite rapidly to 2030. And then also an increasing awareness of compliance standards, as you know, and again, similar thing that we've seen in the Philippines. So this is a little bit more of a mature market for you. I think you entered in 2023. What's sort of the biggest difference here that you've seen? What's your experiences in Vietnam now compared to Philippines and Indonesia?
I think Vietnam, it's a very interesting market. There's a lot of activity, obviously, in manufacturing with FDI, logistics as well. So
Mm.
we're seeing opportunities in those segments, probably to a greater extent than the other regional markets. I do think that from what we've seen, customers are looking for complete solutions. So it's not so much of a product market. It's really about providing a comprehensive solution that can achieve the ROI expectations for the customer. But I think Vietnam has really strong fundamentals and definitely is one of the most attractive markets, I would say, if you're looking long term in Southeast Asia.
Mm. Yes, a lot of and again goes back to that regional market comparison we did there. I think these are really sort of as opportunities. These are really three strong markets, and yeah, I think that's again as the focus of our research. We did also look at Malaysia and Thailand, and I think you know you can make a kind of rough comparison there, but I think these three markets were the most interesting. So, in terms of success factors, I mean, we pulled these four out. Again, if you want to get more of an in-depth look at all of this, like feel free to download the research. I'll put the QR code up again towards the end of the presentation. I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, William, didn't you? Like hardware and software. People are looking for, integrated systems, full solutions. A very important one, I think, the second point there, in terms of payback, ROI, I think that's quite clear. A lot of people, the expectation really being that your project needs to pay back in 3 years. And we discussed already the local presence point, very important to build trust and confidence in delivery, right? It's you really need to be present in those markets. And then, yeah, finally, this kind of modular approach. You want to be able to serve not just mass market, but also premium as well. So, it's not one size fits all in this region. Yes, I mean, they resonate with you, William? Anything you wanted to add?
For sure, yeah. So, when we started our business, we started with a hardware and software approach, which was not always popular in the eyes of investors, especially the traditional VCs that focus a lot on software.
Mm,
But we really felt like we needed to have affordable, flexible, capable hardware to enable us to grow and succeed in this industry in this region. And I think that's been validated over what we've seen in the last number of years. So I think one of the advantages for us is that we have much greater control over our system, and we can address those different use cases. If we need to customize a little bit, we can do that. If we need to be a little more aggressive on pricing to get certain deals, we have control over our margins because we produce the products ourselves. So yeah, I think a lot of these factors are things that we've learned through putting in the time and the effort to really engage with each market.
mm,
And I think the third point of local presence is really a critical one that a lot of companies sort of struggle with, where they think that maybe if they can set up in Singapore, they can just sort of travel around the region and sign customers. And I think it really doesn't work that way in this region,
mm,
because customers want to see that you're really committed, you're really localized, and you really understand the nuances of how things are done in each market. And so that's something that we've tried to do as we've grown in the region, to make sure that we provide adequate coverage and adequate support in each market.
yeah. So let's talk more specifically about what you guys do. I'll let you go through this slide because as the as the
Yeah, of course,
Amplitech
of
expert,
course.
of course.
Yeah. So what we do is we provide a platform for energy asset and sustainability management. So when we look at sort of the smart building or smart energy landscape, we see a lot of point solutions. So there's companies that focus on optimizing HVAC systems, or they focus on maybe a certain type of property like hotel, guest room automation. But we feel like a lot of these technologies around solar rooftops, energy efficiency, batteries, EVs, there's a lot of technology coming into the built environment, and the owners really need an integrated solution. They don't want to be dealing with 3, 4, 5 different vendors for different pieces of their facility. And so we have come up with a platform that is very flexible. It's able to integrate both new and existing systems or sensors that you would find in a factory or a large office or shopping mall. And so we can basically go in, connect to whatever's there, or we can provide the infrastructure and the field work if we need to. And then we deliver 4 core applications. So we can provide utilities management for things like energy and water, tracking usage, identifying anomalies, generating bills. We have an energy efficiency application where we automate and achieve energy savings for air conditioning systems in particular. Then we have DER management to deal with rooftop solar PV and energy storage systems. And we have a sustainability reporting piece, which is another key driver for a lot of, especially multinational companies. They need to have these sort of reporting systems and data collection systems for compliance. And so this platform approach gives us a lot of flexibility in how we engage customers and how we can basically grow in different regions, even if the needs in each market can be slightly different. So that's what we've been developing and now taking to market in the last several years. And we're really encouraged by what we've seen in Southeast Asia.
Mm. Maybe it might be interesting just to quickly describe like a deployment, because I mean you're dealing, and you mentioned this modular approach, but I imagine you're dealing with customers and clients who have like zero infrastructure versus someone who already has a legacy BMS. I mean, how do you deal with those two scenarios?
Yeah. So in a legacy sort of or more of a, I guess, less sophisticated facility, which there are plenty of them in the region, where you go in and there's no drawings for their systems, there's no equipment list, there's no automation system. We can basically provide direct, DDCs. We can put in controllers, we can put in meters, we can basically run a cloud platform that can be sort of a cloud BMS to control different systems and manage the data. And that can be done progressively. So we could start with, a couple of data points for key equipment, and then we can expand it over time if the customer wants to add more and more capability. Whereas for, let's say, a grade A office building or a premium sort of project that has a BMS already from a major vendor, we can go in, we can connect our IoT gateways to that BMS, and then we can basically run our optimization software through our cloud platform. So we have the flexibility to work both ways, and that gives us the ability to serve sort of the top 10, 20% of the market for high-end projects, while also meeting the needs of more of the local enterprises, which has been, I think, a really difficult segment for a lot of international businesses to crack.
Yeah, I agree. So guys, if you want to download the research, here I promised I'd put it up again for you. So if you want to scan that QR code, and I also put the link in the comments. So yeah, go ahead and do that. We'll just cover some key takeaways, and then if you do have questions, we've got a couple of minutes left. So let me know. Put them in the comment section. You can do that on YouTube, and you can do that on LinkedIn as well. So let's cover the last slide. So I think of those markets we showed, I think we just pulled out that Indonesia and Vietnam have that largest addressable market. And across the region, we're seeing data centers as a fast-growing sector for energy efficiency. We talked about local proof and 3-year ROI, and I think those are two real sort of critical factors for success. And I think finally we do expect like market adoption to grow significantly and potentially double within 5 years. So I think, William, from your perspective, like if we look ahead 3-5 years, which of the markets we've covered, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, do you think is moving fastest towards adoption, and why?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, because the markets are so different and things can change, as we've seen this year, right, with tariffs and a lot of the global trade issues. So Last year, I would have said Vietnam with no hesitation because of the amount of growth in the market there. But we've actually been really pleasantly surprised by the Philippines in terms of the readiness, and I think they seem to be less exposed to some of the export issues that have impacted Vietnam. So I think both have a really strong outlook, Indonesia as well. But if I had to pick one for the next 2 years or so, I would probably say Philippines. But if I'm looking at 5 years or longer, I would say Vietnam, just based on the size, the fundamentals.
Mm.
So I think it's important to really uh, be present in all of the key markets and see how you can invest to reap the dividends in 3, 5, 10 years, which is what we're trying to do.
Yep. Excellent. So I've just, on the final slide, I put up your contact details there. If you guys do have questions, you can also take them afterwards. So I'm sure like William would be happy to answer any questions you have. You can either leave a comment, indeed, if you have a question for me as well, leave a comment. We can answer those at some point. Or I guess you can email, of course, Ampotech, and we put up the email address and the telephone number there. So yeah, I think we're kind of out of time. William, any final thoughts for us? Any just, what's the one thing you want people to take away from today?
I think the most important thing is that this is really an exciting time to be in Southeast Asia in the energy sector. And I think sometimes when large companies look at market research reports, or they just do a high level survey, they miss a lot of the nuance and a lot of the opportunity in this region. So I think it's great that our research and this white paper are shedding more light on what's happening in these markets. And I think there's only going to be growing interest and more activity in the next few years in this space.
Yeah. And final word from me, if you want more information, if you want to get a deeper understanding of what's going on here, please go and download the white paper. And yeah, just remains me to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you, William. I really appreciate your time today. And I wish you guys luck. I think it's a fantastic opportunity in the region. So yeah, well placed to take advantage of that.
Thank you.
All right then. Thanks, guys. Bye for now. See you on the next one.